Hello, welcome to day 2 of Literacy with Mr F. Today we're going to start off with a spelling activity. So on my screen I have 6 words which are all common exception words in year 2. These are all words that you have to learn how to spell because they don't necessarily follow phonics the way that we would sound out words normally. So I'm going to take a minute to have a look at these words. We've got many, steak, much, parent, plant and friend. What I'd like you to do is look at those words, pause the screen for as long as you need to, and learn how to spell those words. In a minute, I'm going to cover those words, and I'm going to ask you to see if you can spell some of them for me. So take a minute, learn the spellings of those words. And I've now covered them up. So, can you see if you can spell those words for me? I'd like to write word number 1, plant. Word number 2, can you spell many? Many. Word number 3, can you spell friend? And we'll try one more. Word number 4, can you spell the word parent? Okay, you should have 4 of those words written down. Now that I've revealed them, I want you to check how many of them you got correct. If you got any of them wrong, maybe practice each of those words a few times, just so that you can get them right in the future. Okay. In today's lesson, we're going to be using some more descriptive language like we did yesterday. So first of all, we need to be able to explain what adjectives, verbs and adverbs are. We did that in yesterday's lesson, so hopefully you should be on track for that already. We're going to see if we can use adjectives to describe some nouns. We're going to see if we can use verbs and adverbs to describe our actions. And we're going to see if we can up-level our descriptive words for detail. So there's no point choosing easy words if you can use words which are much more exciting and interesting. On my screen, I've got a lovely picture of a Mexican cenote. I think I showed you that in one of our lessons back at school. In this cenote, there's not many people, but it looks absolutely stunning. I want you to think to yourself now, if you had to describe that picture to somebody else, what words would you use? What adjectives would you use to describe what you can see? What verbs and adverbs might you use to describe the actions and how actions might be done in that picture? Maybe the people standing on the edge here could be jumping in very soon. Maybe we could think about how they might jump in. How might that person be swimming there? How might the sun be shining down? Think about some adverbs you could choose to describe the actions and to describe how those actions are done. So yesterday, I said that we were going to do a little bit of slow writing. So today, we're going to do that together. How slow writing works with me is that I'm going to show you the picture and I'm going to describe a sentence that I'd like to write. I'll have a go at writing one and then you can have a go at writing one as well. After I finish writing a sentence, feel free to pause it so that you can have time to write your own sentences. So the first thing I'd like to do is I'd like to describe maybe the sun, how it's shining through. So if I was thinking about the sunshine's quite lovely, so I'm going to use that word, and it's shimmering as well. So shimmering, it's shimmering down so that it's reflecting on the water. So how can I write my sentence? Let me see. Okay. The lovely shimmering sunshine reflected on the crystal clear water. Oh, I've noticed a mistake. I spelt a word wrong. Now on mine, it underlines my word if I spell them incorrectly. On your work, it doesn't do that, so you'll need to check your spelling yourself. I know that lovely hasn't got an E there, so now I've corrected my spelling. And I've described the sunshine reflecting on the crystal clear water. Pause the video now. I'd like you to think of a way that you could describe the sun shining down. Maybe you could choose some really exciting adjectives to use. For my second sentence, I want to think about maybe using a list sentence of things that I can hear going on in the cenote. So I know that I could definitely hear people splashing. I could definitely maybe hear some birds chirping in the distance. Maybe apart from that, maybe I can't hear anything at all because it's that lovely silent sound of relaxation. Here's my sentence. I could hear people splashing, birds chirping, and apart from that, it was silent. So in my sentence, I've used a comma to separate the items in a list. What I'd like you to do is think of 3 things that could be happening in your picture, and I'd like you to use a comma to separate those 3 things. Remember, we write one thing, comma, one thing, and the last thing. That's how we use commas in our list sentences. Pause the video for your turn. For my third sentence, I'd like to experiment with using some interesting adverbs and verbs, and I'd also like to maybe use a conjunction to explain my ideas a little bit more. So I'm going to use one of my favourite words, which is because, to explain a little bit more. So, people were swimming safely, got to be safe when we're swimming, definitely, because the cenote was incredibly deep. Now in this sentence, cenote actually is spelt correctly, but because it's a Spanish word, it doesn't recognise the spelling of it. Notice how I've used because as my conjunction to explain, and I've used my verb swimming and my adverb safely to describe how I would be swimming. Pause it for your turn to write a sentence with a verb, an adverb, and some sort of conjunction to explain more. For my last sentence in my description, I'd like to ask people whether they would like to visit this cenote. So I need to make sure if I'm asking something that I use a question mark at the end, like we did in our starter yesterday. So my question, would you like to swim in the water? There's my question. I've asked to the reader, would you like to swim in the water? Pause the video now for your turn to write a question. The last thing we need to do now that we've written our 4 sentences, is we need to see if we need to edit some of it to make it better. Now I've already edited my spelling on that word, which I spelt wrong, but I think my 4th sentence is a little bit basic, so I'd like to make it a bit more exciting. Instead of just saying, would you like to swim in the water, perhaps I could describe that water using some really lovely adjectives. So maybe I'll add beautiful and warm. So now that sentence is much better. Would you like to swim in the beautiful warm water? Already that sentence sounds more exciting. Have a read through of your sentences and see if there's anything you'd like to make a bit more exciting. So today, you've had a go at slow writing 4 sentences to describe that picture that we saw on the screen. I'd like to think now that you've edited your work about how successful you've been in today's lesson. So our objective was to use descriptive language. Did you do that well? Were you an expert at using descriptive language who needs 3 ticks for that? Did you struggle a little bit with 2 ticks, or maybe just the 1 tick because you found that really difficult today? If you found it really difficult, maybe you could re-watch this video later and see if you could make it better. How good was your presentation? Was your handwriting neat? Did it look really tidy on the page? Were your letters small? How much effort did you put in? Did you try really hard to make the most exciting sentences, or did you just use some basic vocabulary? Have a think about that. Maybe you deserve 3 ticks for trying really hard. Maybe you could try harder next time. And finally, have a think about the next steps. What have you done really well in today's lesson, and what might you need to work on in the future? Same as yesterday, if you're particularly impressed with some of the sentences you've written, maybe feel free to post them to your DB Primary blog, or maybe you could email them to me and I can have a look at how well you've done with your writing. If you need any help, feel free to rewatch parts of this video, and remember again to stay safe.